everyone, it's Raina. So this video is for the full moon in Capricorn, which is happening either on the 27th of June or the 28th, depending on where you live. In my time zone, which is the central time zone in the United States, it is happening at 11:53 p.m. on June 27th. And so for people in Europe and Australia and places like that, it's going to be on the 28th. So every time there's a full moon, there's an opposition coming from the sun. So basically, there's always going to be that conflict within us that's symbolized by the full moon, where there is like this push-pull that relates to our ambitions and our emotional needs. And if you're actually a Capricorn, this will be a time where you feel a sense of endings in terms of something regarding your way of life, the way that you relate to others, or the image that you project to others. And the sun will be in your 7th house, so there's going to be like a possible, I don't want to say a crisis, but some kind of something coming to a head perhaps that connects you to another person in a connected partnership related relationship. So a marriage, the equivalent of a marriage, maybe some kind of a business partnership. And same with Cancer, although the houses are changed. So if Cancer is your sun or rising sign, then Capricorn, the full moon is in your 7th house. And that could be a time when you're seeing that other person as they really are. And it can also be a time when you find out something about your significant other too. So it can work different ways. And I feel like for Cancers, this is going to be more of a decisive time when you might finally sever a relationship or take it to the next level and commit further to that person. Whereas I think if you're a Capricorn, it's really about highlighting your own needs and also what you need to let go of in your life in order to have that balance. For all of us, this brings up the polarity of the 4th and 10th houses, which constitute the home and family sector that Cancer rules, and the 10th house of career, which Capricorn rules. And is one being given more attention than the other? And how can we balance the two? The focus is on the 10th house in terms of the full moon. What kind of information does it provide? For some people, do you need to let go of a career? Do you need to retire? I heard a spiritual speaker talk about retirement and said something to the effect of, what are you retiring from? So that makes a lot of sense to me, that the idea of retirement only exists if we're doing something that doesn't necessarily appeal to us enough to do it for the rest of our lives. And we think, oh, thank God, now I can retire. Now I will be financially supported in not having to do this particular job. But if you really feel a strong calling in doing something, then there is no expiration date, unless it's the kind of field that they push you out of. But there could be certain circumstances where retiring, in other words, letting go of something that you do, is very important in order to, and it doesn't have to be retiring, just ceasing to do a career is important for your family life, for instance. And this may be because you want to start a family. And even though you love your career, you want to devote enough attention to raising children, and you don't feel like you can do both effectively, that you can have a successful career and a successful family at the same time. And that might be one group of people that need to look at it from that perspective. And for other people, it can simply be that they have been too imbalanced in one area. Because remember, oppositions are about integration. You have two polarities, you have two extremes that are kind of creating a split energy between two areas of life. Other things that are happening with this full moon is that we have Mercury in Cancer, so there's a lot of compassion in the conversations. It's not harsh, it's not combative, it's intuitive, it's something that involves understanding another's plight and putting yourself into somebody else's shoes, and nurturing too. Venus is in Leo and Mars is in Aquarius, and these are two opposing signs, and they're close enough in degrees to form an opposition of their own. My feeling is with this full moon, and you know that full moons tend to heighten emotions. I feel like the emotions are pretty balanced during this full moon. In other words, I'm talking about in general, where unlike some other full moons, there can be a lot of like wackadoodle kind of stuff going on. But I do also feel that in romantic relationships, this could be where some of the more extreme stuff takes place, because with Venus and Mars in opposition, it's kind of like they're at odds with each other, so there's not that integration. For some people, it may come up, they realize that there's this issue around sexuality, that either you love somebody or you're in lust with them, but you can't integrate that. And you realize, some people may realize that they have been too extreme when it comes to how they view relationships, that they've either like put things into different boxes. Okay, this is a booty call, and this is the love of my life, and I can't have both of them at once, and it needs to be integrated at this time. And this can just speak also of some kind of opposition between lovers. And likewise, I noticed that Venus is squaring off to Jupiter, as is Mars. And so Venus squared Jupiter can be like having inflated feelings of romantic love towards somebody that are not based in reality. And there may actually be some kind of physical attraction that is masquerading as a romance, or that the person is deluded into thinking that they are really madly in love with somebody that they are just strongly desiring physically. And so that can bring things to a head when it comes to relationships. Once again, the idea that the person mistakes sex for love and doesn't understand that there is a lot of harmonious interactions between them and the other person, and that is not what love is about. Mars is also forming a square to Jupiter. So this can be the case of someone who is, I would say in a sense, grandiose notions, or what is that saying? I can't think of it, like delusions of grandeur, where the person thinks that they're doing something for the benefit of mankind, but it's really for their ego. Because actually, you know, it's very interesting. There is a nice conjunction between the moon and Saturn that is occurring at the time of this full moon. Now, normally I wouldn't necessarily say that this type of conjunction is that, you know, great, but the fact that it's in Capricorn, and as well as the fact that the moon and Saturn are the aspects involved in that conjunction, means that it's a double Capricorn influence, because Saturn rules Capricorn, and therefore it adds a lot of stability to what is going on at this full moon. And remember, we're talking about the moon. You know, the full moon is the moon. So the moon period, the full moon period, the tendency to kind of be emotionally unstable, Saturn is an anchor. And I was noting recently in one of my readings that Saturn looks like an anchor, the symbol for Saturn. So whenever I see it now, I think of this anchor. So the emotions are anchored during this full moon, and the person is a lot more mature in terms of their perception of reality based on emotional triggers. And I think they're not going to be triggered that much. Interestingly, we also have a sextile from the Sun to Uranus and a trine from the Moon to Uranus. So Uranus rules Aquarius, and Aquarius is an air sign, and of course Capricorn is an earth sign. Air and earth signs are more logical, analytical, and less emotional. So anytime that you have like this conjunction, and also since Saturn rules Capricorn, both of these planets are connected to signs that are associated with being rational. Well, Aquarius can get a little quirky now and then, but in terms of emotional response, let's put it that way, they tend not to react to life. And the full moon itself can be all about reactivity. And so that can make this a little bit more productive of a period of time. Because for people that are very much into paganism and that type of belief system, the full moon period is, I believe, the most powerful phase. And so in terms of manifestation and things like that. So to have that kind of grounded energy at the time of a full moon, and you know, with the sign of Capricorn, which is the sign of success, this can be a very productive time for those people who are aware enough to harness this energy. And I'm trying to see here what else. Of course, we have Jupiter still retrograding in Scorpio, and yet that's at a friendly angle. The Sun being in a fellow water sign at this point in Cancer. So it's a trine from the Sun to Jupiter. Very good for attracting abundance and even like your own personal goals, having them flow more easily. So I'm feeling very good about this overall. I think the only area of caution is in any of your personal relationships, especially if they feel a little bit hinky as it is, just to watch out for that. And don't overreact. Don't over-emote in terms of romantic relationships. Don't like get carried away at the time of the full moon, because with that square from Venus to Jupiter, a person may think that they're in this grand romance, and really it's all in their minds. They're projecting their own desires onto that other person. Now, I'm going to pick a few cards. I haven't done this type of full moon reading in a while, so I'm going to pick a card from my Morgan Greer Tarot deck. I'm going to pick a card from my Mystical Shaman Oracle deck, which is a new deck that was sent to me by the company that makes them. And then I'm going to pick a card from the Keepers of the Light Oracle deck, just to kind of give a little flavor to this particular time period. These cards, these Mystical Shaman cards, have no borders to them. So that's pretty cool because you get more of the illustration. The colors are nice and vivid too, which I like, because sometimes there are certain decks where the cards kind of look the same. And I like cards that have a lot of colors and a lot of variations between each card. And the last card, this is from the Keepers of the Light. That's Compassion, perfect for the Cancer energies. So the first card is the Tarot card, Seven of Wands. This is a card of, the person's kind of in a defensive posture. And I would say that in this particular instance with this full moon, to really, you know, it's about standing your ground. And how this may affect you depends on where this full moon lands in your chart. But at any time when there's a full moon, there is the sense of increased sensitivity. And it's not all about reactivity, where we're reacting to somebody else's demands or somebody else's criticisms or something like that. It may be simply that we realize that we have the right to be who we are, and we don't have to change for anybody else in a significant way. And the Seven of Wands, you know, because wands relate to fire energy, and fire energy is all about identity, the ego. But in a healthy sense, our identity does not devour us and become this negative force. It's actually, you know, leading to confidence, where we know who we are and we're not trying to impress anyone. You know, a lot of people who are insecure, it's really because they don't know who they are. And so they may brag, or they may try to throw their weight around and push people around. But really, when somebody knows themselves and they have a quiet confidence, they don't have the need to do any of that. And so the Seven of Wands is reminding you to always stand up for yourself. And that may take different forms. Sometimes it doesn't have to be even anything that you say. You may have to stop talking. Maybe you've been too busy explaining yourself to somebody who really doesn't care about your answers. They're just trying to keep you in that posture of constantly defending yourself. And maybe it's time to just stay silent and realize that you've moved on from the relationship, and don't get caught up in their games. And for some people, you need to speak up, and you haven't done so yet. So definitely full moons bring out the emotions. Even though I said that they're balanced, they may be more balanced this time around. That's going to be for the people who are already basically balanced, because, you know, you can have the best transits in the world, but there are always going to be people who are reacting too much to life, and they're not taking action. They're just reacting. So, yeah, I mean, that may not apply to everyone, but for those that does, then you know that that's something that you need to work on. And then the second card is the Upper World. Let me see. Sometimes it's hard for me to tell. It looks like kind of a bird and a kind of a globe or something like that, but I can't tell exactly what the image is. I'm going to use the booklet to, if I can find the booklet. Oh, it's over here. to see exactly what they were referring to. Oh, it's 59, okay. I thought it said 50. The essence, it says, angels, divine helpers, the ancient ones, and all varieties of luminous beings populate the upper world. It is the place where you go to retrieve your destiny and find out who you will become. Discover your great potentials and undreamt of possibilities. It is also the place where the spirits of the dead arrive when they complete their journey to the light. The invitation. The upper world is calling you to step into your fully realized self. Clear distractions so that you can move into a higher destiny. Do not fall to the temptation to craft a slightly more improved version of yourself. What you perceive as a problem or an obstacle is, in fact, the irritation you need to take the great leap. Remember, you cannot cross the Grand Canyon in 2 small jumps. And the medicine, so that's going to be the healing element. Ask your divine helpers for guidance. If the oracle has already spoken to you, do not ask for more guidance. Take what has been offered. Now you must deal with the lethargy and idleness. While support for a new destiny is not yet in place, a new destination is available to you if you act now. Interesting. And, you know, we do have this is kind of like a precursor to the month of July, when we have a lot of upheavals, because we have the eclipses, the solar eclipse in Cancer and the lunar eclipse in Aquarius. And likewise, we have Jupiter turning direct on the 10th of the month. And so that's another thing. And you know, right around that same day, yeah, actually on the same day, or the day after, I should say, the day before this full moon, Mars is turning retrograde. So there's a lot happening in this end of June and through the month of July period. And so it's kind of like, this might be the calm before the storm. And it's interesting that I got that card of the upper world, because it's asking us to contact with something, you know, beyond this realm, in order to kind of feel that sense of stability, perhaps, for people that feel a little bit like, whoa, you know, everything is up in the air. And then the last card is from the Keepers of the Light, Kuan Yin, care and compassion. Sounds like Cancer. Choose to be love, do what is right for everyone involved, offering a helping hand. And I wanted to say that Kuan Yin is associated with Reiki. So it's possible that some of you, if you have started to get involved in training for Reiki healing, that you will become more and more connected to this what would we call it, ascended master, or this spirit guide. I don't know how to characterize her. Okay, I'm looking for her card, right? I'm looking for her information. Okay. Kuan Yin is a bodhisattva, Buddha-like being, and the goddess of mercy, compassion, and love. Though she's acknowledged in Buddhism and the traditions of China, she goes beyond religion and warms the heart of all who call on her. She has a strong connection to healing energy, in particular Reiki, and encourages people to offer care, forgiveness, and compassion to themselves and others. Compassion is about recognizing the spirit in others. It's about seeing that they come from the same source as you do. First of all, the Keepers of the Light want to acknowledge all the service and commitment you have offered to others. You are all love. If you're finding it difficult with anyone at the moment, the best way you can move forward is to go beyond wanting to understand why or how they are the way they are. Just move beyond their behavior, mistakes, and challenges. This card brings a message of friendship and care, helping you to see that those around you do have the best intentions, even if it doesn't always seem that way. Move into compassion and develop a greater understanding. This will elevate your spirit and connection to love. Well, that's a great card to pull for a full moon period with heightened emotions. And also when the sun is in Cancer. This is a natural impulse of Cancer, is to love and care for others, nurture others. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this brief reading. Well, actually it isn't so brief, but this look at the full moon in Capricorn, and take care. Bye.